Hello and welcome to the final episode of SCR in Transport Fever 2. Today we'll be building from Faymere TMD to Leighton Stepford Road, including Leighton West along the way of course. This is continuing on from the West Coast building stream that I had put live. It's going to magically appear in the corner, typical YouTuber fashion. And currently I am building Faymere TMD, doing some terraforming, slowly moving on, and I'm going to slowly make a field here, and also make Faymere Station, and yeah, then continuing on down to Edgemead, and then getting the station done, doing some track work. I'm also going to put in a freight line to the mysterious Winstree paper mill. For those who get that reference to Winstree, hello, I guess. And then yeah, I get the pleasure of building an absolutely humongous field around Edgemead, which did take a few hours, but it was worth it for the screenshots. It's worth saying that the field I'm currently building here, I actually had to rebuild because I lost save, and that is quite a little recurring theme for some parts of this, because I forgot to turn on autosave. As you just saw, there was an autosave thing there because, funnily enough, after losing stuff to not turn on autosave, I turned on autosave. I've definitely got a love-hate relationship with it because I know it's useful, but it never comes at the right time. And it takes ages. Anyway, yeah, that's it. And hope you enjoy the rest of the building. So I've just started painting this field, which is a surprisingly laborious and slow process, but it was quite satisfying to watch in a time-lapse form. This did take quite a while, but compared to the fields that are to come. But yeah, this field was a bit of an experiment because a lot of the previous fields I've done, there have been multiple fields in this series that haven't really been done this stuff and been quite blocky. What I wanted to try with this is do some more organic shapes using Google Maps as a sort of reference to kind of what I could go for. Might still not be the most accurate sort of shape, but it's a lot more realistic to what you might find instead of just square blocks going over the landscape. And yeah, it does come off to a much nicer viewing, and yeah, it's a lot of work for something you're only going to see a little bit, but it's good for screenshots. And that's my complete reasoning with making fields like this, when it's just you go into the trees and yeah, well, if you're taking a screenshot, you get third-person view, and you get this beautiful field in the background. Yeah, might not be completely necessary, and I will say that the one at Edgemead was definitely overkill. This field could have probably done with a being slightly bigger, but it wasn't that big a deal. It was really just an experiment, and considering I'd already lost most of the field building, I really wasn't in the mood to be redoing this. Let's put it that way. But yeah, Anyway, enjoy the rest of the field building, and I'll get back to commentating at some point soon. Yes. So here I'm just about to start building Faymere as a station. I did have to go through and redo this a few times, and one thing you will notice is that I completely neglected to do the little river and bridge the line goes over. I do eventually fix that, and it didn't take me noticing it. It took someone in the Discord noticing it when I posted a screenshot, and I thank them for it, because otherwise it probably wouldn't have gotten in there. But anyway, for reference, that's not the first time I forget a river in this. There's still the Leighton West one to go. Anyway, right now I'm just trying to build the overbridge over the station. This one was a bit of fun. I'm pretty sure this is another thing I lost. I can't remember whether it was due to a crash or me turning off autosave again. Probably me forgetting to turn autosave off again. And whatever, but yeah, I did lose one version of Faymere, and yeah, back to this again and continuing on like it's no big deal, but a bit of time wasted. Not too bad in the grand scheme of this episode, considering this episode is 35 hours of footage. But yeah, just slowly sorting out Faymere here. Soon we're going to be moving on to building up to Edgemead, and all that entails. I'm going to build up the hills around there just because it makes my life slightly easier. There we are. It makes my life slightly easier when doing the fields. I don't have to do that many fields. And one thing I did want to experiment on this was fiddling with what types of trees go along it, because when you're running along Faymere, here we are, it is just this bush mesh. That was really badly pronunciated, but that's beside. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to try and sort of kind of replicate that look. I'm not sure how it went. It's definitely not one of my best experiments in the world, but I don't mind it that much. But yeah, anyway, right now I'm just making sure all the trains work before I continue on, and I'm just going to sort out some of the trees, just re-enabling all the trees there, and yeah, I'm still sorting out all these routes and just making sure nothing's broken, because that happened a few times when I was building this, and what would happen is the trains would get stuck because they tried to move into each other because of how I set the signal, because for some reason I didn't make any of these one way like a normal person. But yeah, right now I'm just getting ready to build Edgemead itself, cleaning up some of the trees in the tunnel, because yeah, I still didn't get rid of most of those trees, and I probably should have done it in the cleanup of this episode. That will be sorted for when the map is on the workshop, hopefully, and that will be published alongside this episode. It will be in the description, the map on the Transweave workshop. I had previously done the one from Leighton to Middle Castle, so if you want, you can download that, but you might as well get this one if you want to continue building this map onto from Leighton. You can. I will say one of the things I did neglect to do is start Lynn in the middle, because then I probably would have had a better chance at fitting the whole map in. If you want to try and fit the whole map in, you're more than happy to, but it might be a bit of the squeeze and you might have to get a little bit creative. But yeah, it's been a good journey with all this. One thing you'll notice just here is that I've built this line up to the Wind Street paper mill. I kind of wanted to implement this into this save. One, because let's just look at the earnings on this map. I kind of wanted to balance it out. It's also just a matter of adding that little bit of realism into SCR, adding the freight lines. Obviously, if I'd done the whole map, I would have added some container terminals, had container freight going across the map, but obviously that wasn't in the scope of what this map was for me now. I merely just wanted to get this main part of the map sorted, city to city, because, well, Westwyvern is one thing, but going to Leighton from Lynn is still quite a stretch in the grand scheme of things, especially when you're detailing the map along the way. It has taken a long time. Right now I'm just rebuilding some of the scenery. Eventually I'll realise again that the bit I've just put painted ballast on still needs to be green, because that's how it is in game. I did try and keep some of this true to the game. Some of it is not escapable, as you will see with Leighton later. I kind of had to bodge some of the stations a bit, and it's not exactly true. I mean, you can kind of see a little bit of that going on here of Edgemead. The station building isn't as big as it probably should be, but I still try and keep with some of the towns being similar spec to what they are in game. I probably could have built up some of the towns a bit, but at the end of the day, this is SCR and Transmover 2. Whether I want to make it realistic or not is really just down to what I'm feeling that day. As you'll notice with some of the fields later, some of it looks organic, some of it is blocky as hell, because I basically just loaded back into Transmover 2, and yeah, for some reason it takes my brain to click into that mode sometimes. Right now I'm just dealing with the pains of building really long hedge lines for the outlines of the field. Some of these take ages to load, which is why you might see the time-lapse hang for a bit. I've tried to edit some of that out, but it's basically because he's trying to draw a really long line of assets, and yeah, it takes a while. And one of the things I got bored and did here for some reason was custom gardens, which is certainly an interesting experience. Some of the mods for assets of houses, they have inbuilt gardens you can just have preset, but I thought it might be a nice little touch just to try one of these myself, as I don't think they came with those asset houses. Whether they have or not is completely beyond me, but yeah. This is another thing to note. One of the things I didn't do with the blocky fields was add rows before I built the fields, so that's something I've tried to do here. Just have a road network where I can kind of have the fields move with that instead of just adding it later and it's sort of forged in. Trying to add up some of these forested areas, detailing some of this paper mill bit. This just eventually turned into its own little freight network with mail and trains go back and forth. It makes a lot of money. It is quite good. It's amazing some of the differences you see with my earnings bit along the way, because sometimes it could be, oh yeah, minus a couple of million, and other times it's minus 300 million for some reason. But yeah, at the end of the day, I am on sandbox mode with this. I can add as much money as I want. I just decided to start with a measly 10 billion. No, it was 100 billion, not 10 billion. It's quite fun just to go on the company chart. If you click on the account, you can see a chart of just money going down. And when I get to Leighton, I had another look at it. You can see this starting to go up again because I finally made the damn thing profitable. Because those express trains there were losing money like no end. I mean, they kind of still were when I finished the map. But anyway, I'm just about to probably start working on the fields. Yeah, there we are. Starting work on the fields, drawing out these fields. I think this field took me 8-9 hours, something like that. These two fields together, not just the hill ones, that would be insane. 8 hours for the hill ones. I wouldn't have known what would come over me if I was doing that. But yeah, anyway, enjoy some field building and some painting again. Sorry if it's a bit weird that I'm recording some of this. I did zoom in quite a lot, so yeah. Right, so I've just started building the branch up to Leighton West. This is the start of glorious Leighton after this whole excavating with the field building. Yeah, as you'll notice, I had forgotten to add in that rivet into the field, so this was sort of a well executed afterthought of mine. But one of the things I wasn't initially going to do when I was building this was add in little tracks into the field, but as you can see, I'm adding those now. I was a bit uncertain about doing them, but they went all right. I mean, one of them kind of went a bit wide up to the right there into the rapeseed oil, the rapeseed plant field. But apart from that, I think this area went quite well. Just adding a bridge in before. I think one thing I couldn't do was add in the canal and lock stuff, because that isn't really a feature in Transport Fever 2, so I can't really implement it too well. It was something I just had to not add in at the end of the day, but I did try to add in some of the features that are around the area, try and just work with what I could do, and of course add in all this level crossing detail. Foot crossing, but never mind. And yeah, this area slowly built up. Added this path up to the road, which will eventually join into Leighton, and just I don't know why I painted this bit, to be honest, but I guess I just decided to at one point, and yeah, we're just gonna slowly decorate this area with trees. One of the things I will get to in a bit is when I try to replicate solar panels. Right here, I ended up reloading the game because I didn't actually have any solar panel assets in the mod list, so I went onto the workshop and nabbed one. So yeah, built the solar panels there, and going to continue on to Leighton West shortly, which was an entire bit of fun with station building in itself. One of the things I had a little bit of a fiddly with here was making sure these gaps into the void were hidden up. Before I continued building Leighton West, I ended up using badger hacks as building blocks, and yeah, then continued on with building Leighton West, adding all the speed limits in, some banner repeaters, touching up some stuff. I even added the little part that sits near one of the, it sits off one of the hills near Leighton West. I just thought it might be a nice little Easter egg. I think I ended up hiding it with trees, so you can use this video as a reference if you want to try and find it in the save if you really want to. Yes, and right now I'm just building Leighton's first neighbourhood. There was a lot of house building in the end of this. It did take me a while to get around to adding it all, but yeah, I'm just cleaning up this area. Shortly I'll add a bridge across, and then have a lot of fun trying to build Leighton West itself, because it's a curved station, and I just had a lot of fun trying to replicate that, because the mod I intended to use didn't work, as you will find out shortly. It just deleted the station like this, and I tried again and it just disappeared again. it's anyway, yeah, I ended up using the DB Motras mod, which it's a bit janky, because when you use the flex platform, the actual flex part doesn't work as a platform itself, which is something I completely forgotten about until I'd gotten to Leighton Stepford Road later, and that's another one of the bodges which is one of the reasons why I am glad I'm not continuing this map, because I would have had to fix it. What had happened is basically the train was I built the station so the train could fit in it, but because of how these platforms work, the train didn't stop in the middle of the platform. It undershot in all technical terms, but it's because the game only recognises one part of the platform, because it hasn't, this curved part wasn't set as part of the platform. So yeah, it worked out in the end, but if you really want to try and attempt this yourself, you might end up having to rebuild Leighton Stepford Road, which sounds like some fun, especially with all the retaining walls and everything. But yeah, I've just started building Leighton West itself. All this city building, for me it's a bit of an experiment in myself, because I'm not strictly used to it, and this entire thing, the same thing with Lynn, it was just a complete and utter experiment. I think it turned out alright in the end, but yeah, it's mixed in some places. Trying to build the transport network around this was a lot of fun in itself, because when you initially build houses, there's a heck of a lot of demand for public transport, because all the residents come out almost the exact same time. So something you'll notice from me later is fiddling a lot with the amount of buses out and about and serving the populace, let's say. And yeah, it was just an entire thing. One thing you'll notice me do shortly is attempt to build a parking lot. I did attempt to build this with assets, but it didn't particularly end too well, so I ended up going for some, here we are, I ended up going for multi-storey car park mod instead, because this just looked, I had no idea how I could make it work. It probably work if you were trying to build, let's say, a supermarket car park, but there really wasn't enough flexibility in the mod, so I just ditched it and went for those multi-storey car parks and added a field. It's not the most accurate, but I have to do what I can do, really. right now I've just started to prepare to make the approach for Leighton City itself, which was definitely an interesting thing to attempt. One of the things I initially did with the services was just have nothing run in, because I don't really know the reason. One of the routes I did do, I terminated at Edgemead as it is meant to do in game. I did try and model a lot of the services in this map off the ones in game. I think there's maybe one that eventually won't be, ignoring the depot routes of course, because I just have them there for a nice bit of scenery. And of course the freight line, nearly forgot to add that. One of the things you'll notice later in the video is me having a lot of fun with retaining walls in this area, because, well, let me just put it this way: Leighton curve with these blocks is it takes a little bit of time to get nicely done. And yeah, these bridges, I ended up with some of the ones later on I completely forgot to add roads to, so I mean, it didn't look like an old fort, but it wasn't half the fort when I was trying to build the scenery around the retaining walls above. It's just a bit of fun. And what you'll notice me do here is realise how deep Moat Truss actually works, because I will eventually redo these central platforms so they're straight flexible modules, because that means the game will infill things. There you go. Yeah, I didn't really get a memo on that when I was building Leighton Stepford Road, but there wasn't much I could really do if I wanted curved platforms, so that's kind of what I just went with. One of the things I did want to add here was the siding, so I could terminate that at that light 68, if you noticed that in this video. Well done. But yeah, I just had this light class 68 going up between the depot in Stepford Connect livery. I have added a few Stepford Connect trains in this, because one of the things you will have noticed since the last episode is that I got rid of all the Stepford Connect liveries, because I kind of wanted this map just to have a bit more substance to it, away from just having Stepford liveries, just a personal choice. You're perfectly fine to change those out if you can manage to get this map up yourself. When I'm doing cab rides in the future, because there will be cab ride videos alongside this, I will probably switch out the trains for Connect ones. But yeah, just building up the scenery on this junction, and I will slowly move on across Leighton, just sorting out the shuttle between Leighton City and Leighton West. I won't have any other routes going to Leighton West away from the shuttle. You will change that. As I've said, you can get this map yourself on the workshop, and yeah, I should start to build up to Leighton Stepford Road relatively shortly, once I have sorted out all these brand new routes, because a bit of route variety never hurt anyone apart from my sanity. So I'm just about to start working on the curved platforms at Leighton Stepford Road. This was an entire thing. I ended up building this and then deleting it all, thinking I could probably fix it. Ended up not fixing it, and then I had to rebuild what I'd built, as you will see here. Yeah, I also completely forgot about the air link terminating platform for a bit. And, yeah, slowly built it up and added roots up there. This is me checking whether the platforms work, which didn't end up working. It's one of the reasons why I made trains going to Leighton Stepford Road if they were substantially longer than what the curved platforms would take. I would make them go straight through Leighton Stepford Road and then come back again to actually stop there. If you were running SCR trains in, let's say, the normal formations and having them 5 cars each, then you could reasonably fit them in all of the platforms in this recreation, but I just wanted a bit more realism on how long some of the trains were, especially for the longer distance routes. But yeah, apart from that, it was interesting sorting this out. And one of the things you will also notice is the fact that I had to put a 37 on a 323 to bring it over for a shuttle service between Stepford Road and Leighton City, because I didn't have a single electric TMD, well, just a depot, so I kind of had to bodge it like that. I will eventually add a depot to Leighton Sidings later, but that'll be pretty much it. I'm not even going to call it a depot, it doesn't deserve to be called a depot. Faymere TMD. It's definitely a depot, but it's diesel. It's SCR is a strange beast. But yeah, well, as you will see here, one of the things with Leighton City and Stepford Road is that they look pretty similar because I've used motorist platforms and there isn't much for those away from German stuff. I had to recolour the platforms for the previous episode, and that's kind of carried over into here, so I've kind of attempted to closely replicate the style, but it isn't exact, basically. And here comes the time where I'm building all these retaining walls, which took a couple of hours to sort in the grand scheme of things, especially when it came to the Leighton Stepford Road curve, because I have to manually replace all of them. One of the things I did learn while doing this is that I needed to have the retaining walls a bit further away from the track, because what I ended up doing is making some of the retaining walls going into catenary and signals, and I only remedied that when I was doing the other side of Leighton Stepford Road curve. But yeah, you'll see me slowly realise that, and also realise why did I spend so long doing these glass screens at Stepford Road. So yeah, this is something I referred to earlier, but I did get bored for a bit and set up a mail service for, as you will have seen for a split second there, before I decided to sort out the bridges at Leighton Stepford Road. Yeah, I sort out this sort of mail service between the logs and Starrylock, and that just allows the train to bring cargo both ways and add a little bit of money on the side just to balance out the account. This was an interesting thing to set up, and I did also diversify where the mail could go with post with the headquarters I had in Leighton, because I had connected the road network up, so that was completely possible. One of the things I had a bit of fun with here is that I couldn't find the asset for the station, so I kept trying to use another station, to use the station building, because I couldn't find another station building that would fit, and for some reason finding the asset version of it took way too long, and I just gave up and tried to use the station, and then I found the asset version again finally, and just praised the fact that I could possibly use it. Yeah, these bridges were a lot of fun as well, but I end up not adding any further detail to this area because, well, I'm not going to be expanding past this, and it was mostly just for the functionality of being able to use the depot, and this is just Stepford Road to Faymere, and I really could not be bothered with that section for some reason. But yeah, what I'm currently doing now is I'm starting to build up the city itself. I will start with Leighton West and move on from there. I will put asphalt down along the entire stretch of the retaining walls to see what's in game. You have trees running along and then buildings, and I basically stay true to that, but also add roads onto the outside of buildings. So I basically set up bus services across all of there, and just have the ability to naturally generate passengers for the Leighton stations. And one thing I've just realised doing this voiceover is the fact I didn't delete the automatically, well, there's these little let's see, bins, but that's just the asset, but they're basically demand generators. So yeah, I forgot to delete those from Leighton City, and probably Stepford Road as well. I probably should have done that, but never mind. Enjoy me building Leighton. So yeah, we're just approaching the end of the map building now. I will start doing some cleanup around the map in a bit, adding some speed limits. One thing I did neglect to do with Leighton, well, I didn't neglect it, but it isn't shown on video. I added some trees around this bit because it just looked really barren in screenshots. But yeah, this entire neighbourhood thing was a little bit of an experiment for me because I've never really done anything like that. But yeah, just going to finish up. I'm going to add some cut grass or ballast paint to the tracks, because basically, because of how the terrain works and track works, grass looks like it's coming up between the tracks, so I have to go and scan along all of the track, and I will eventually switch back to ballast because I ended up painting some of the stuff that was meant to be painted. But yeah, eventually finished that. Attempt to try and fix some signals. Go and replace all the old speed signs because they weren't great. So I've replaced them with the mod I commissioned, with the ones from the mod I commissioned. And yeah, getting to the end of the build now, and yeah, glad you've enjoyed the series. I just want to end off by saying this series has been an absolute blast to make, and yeah, it's been amazing some of the reception I've had to it. I kind of expected it to do well, but not in the amount that it did. And yeah, I am just getting ready to leave SCR content creation now, so I just wanted to make this one final bang out with this series and end it there. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this series, and yeah, I will see you for the cab rides and my final SCR video, probably, in brackets, because who knows. Goodbye.